Hello and welcome to today's webinar. The topic is cloud security, what you're doing wrong, and I'm guessing we're going to learn a lot about what to do right as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the webinar. This event is presented in partnership with our friends over at Rubrik. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as your moderator for the event today. As always, here at Actual Tech Media, we want these events to be educational. We're all former IT professionals ourselves, and we want to help you to solve your technology challenges. And of course, that's the topic of today's event, cloud security challenges. So we encourage your questions there in the questions pane of your audience console. And we even have a best question prize to help maybe further encourage those questions. I'll talk about that here in just a moment. But first, I want to call your attention there to the Handouts tab. It's there that you'll find 2 PDF resources that you can download for additional information and check out after the event. One is a technical white paper on the Rubrik Guide to Public Cloud, technology overview and how it works. And the other is the Rubrik for Cloud Native Protection solution brief. So make sure that you check those resources out. You can just click on those and then download those and peruse them after the event. At the end of this event, I'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card prize. If you're watching this on demand in a recording, of course, that drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab under ATM prize terms. All right, so with that out of the way, one more thing I want to mention. Of course, we also have our best question prize for an additional $50 Amazon gift card, which means you have to ask a question to be entered into the prize drawing, and then, of course, meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. We review the questions after the event, and we'll select the prize winner from there and contact them via email. All right, and with that, I'm excited now to bring in our expert presenters from Rubrik. Welcome Kim Lambert, Principal Product Marketing Manager, and Mike Preston, Technical Marketing Engineer. It's great to have you on. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, David. Yes, my name is Kim Lambert. I am a product evangelist for cloud security at Rubrik, and I'm really excited to speak with you all today. So at Rubrik, one of my focuses is on the area of our business that ensures the availability of your backup data in the cloud. And I am joined today by Mike Preston from our technical team. And Mike has over 20 years of experience in the IT space. And Mike is going to be the one to show you a great demo in this session. So stay tuned for that. Of course, one of our main goals here is to spend some time talking through key challenges you may face with data protection and data security in the cloud, and how you may not be approaching it in the most optimal way. So I'll also explain how the company I work for, Rubrik, has built a zero trust data security platform from the ground up to provide business continuity, cloud acceleration, and cyber resilience across IaaS, PaaS, and even your most critical suite of applications, Microsoft 365. Because that's what we do at Rubrik. We protect your critical data and applications from not only operational failures and DR events, but also the most grievous problem that businesses face today, and that's ransomware. And we do that with our secure data backup and recovery solution. So let me start by setting the stage a bit with what a lot of customers we talk to are trying to address as part of their enterprise security initiatives. Now, the first, quite fitting for today, is figuring out, how do I solve for cloud? We find that enterprises are trying to solve for data management in a hybrid architecture. They're adopting new cloud platforms, even tackling using multiple cloud platforms. And they want their data management applications to support them and scale as they go. Secondly, customers we talk to are trying to make it easier to run their digital estate. So infrastructure automation at scale, it's a key tenet of doing public cloud correctly. So your data management solution has to be easy to automate and integrate into your environment. Now, last but absolutely not least is tackling security risk. Data security, being able to recover from ransomware, plus data governance, all of that's top of mind for everybody. And any data management solution would be incomplete if it didn't provide recovery capabilities for cyber attacks. So that makes cybersecurity and protection from security events so important. Now, one of the things that you may be struggling with right now is how you're still using legacy data backup and recovery. Now, what is it about a legacy approach that makes it a poor fit for cloud workloads and expanding cloud adoption? Well, the legacy operating model or legacy technologies and tooling that you may use have some shortcomings when you try to bring them to the cloud. And the cloud, it's all about elasticity, being dynamic, being responsive, highly automated. But with legacy, there's not only complexity on the front end to deploying and configuring, with maybe even hundreds of thousands of backup jobs to maintain, but also, even more importantly, legacy systems can suffer from slow, inconsistent recovery. They also do poorly in hybrid environments where you have on-prem as well as cloud architectures, maybe multi-cloud. So you can end up, having a lot of expenses. This is going to cost you a lot of money sometimes. There's the capital outlay to maintain and upgrade hardware. There's the cost and expertise to manage all those backup jobs, and then the cost of downtime and even missing recovery SLA windows. So, many other organizations today, they may not still be using legacy backup, but as they deploy data in the cloud more and more, they're still having multiple accounts to manage. And then within those regions, to protect data, there's still the need to set up all these different components around retention and frequency. Plus, when you're deploying resources within multiple regions for each account, that also entails managing backup schemes across all these different regions. And so, all of this starts to get really, really, really complex. And don't forget too that, by the way, you may still have on-prem that needs to have the same sort of governance and security. It becomes a lot to manage. It's manual, it's resource intensive, it's not scalable. And that's just data protection management. What about data security? What about being able to recover your data when you need it from secure, uncompromised backups? Now, even though it's been talked about more and more over the past few years, many organizations still don't quite understand the concept of the shared responsibility model. Whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, SaaS, for all of these, there's traditionally been consensus among public cloud vendors that data protection is something you need to consider as consumers of these platforms. And the shared responsibility model for data protection, that lies on you, the customer. And like we talked about, this can become especially tricky if you're hybrid, if you're multi-cloud, you're operating at an enormous scale. We've seen studies from Forbes, from Centrify. It's shown that about 60% of organizations are still not clear on this concept of shared responsibility and what it means for them. So if you're also not aware of it and taking steps to protect your organization and its data as your responsibility, that's a real misstep. Now, luckily at Rubrik, we help our customers solve for recovery at cloud scale, taking charge of making sure their data is protected. Our platform can tie in regardless of where you are in your cloud journey, whether you're almost all the way on-prem and, but have a deadline to be in the cloud in the next 3, 6, 12 months, or maybe you're born in the cloud and building all your applications there. You want to know how you can apply security and governance to the cloud. Now, a little background on Rubrik. Since 2014, we have set out to modernize backup and recovery with a single software platform to run on anything, consolidating, simplifying data security. And now we have 5 fundamental capabilities of what we call our Rubrik Zero Trust Data Security Platform, with Zero Trust being the concept, never trust, always verify. So we're very focused on keeping your data secure no matter what. Now, the first tenet here, zero trust data protection. So let me tell you about this. Rubrik is built to support all enterprise apps with cloud in mind. So in a few minutes, we'll go into how natively our software is built to integrate with the cloud in a few key areas. We can dynamically move data to the cloud. We can spin things up in the cloud for instant recovery. We can take a VM and archive it to the cloud, easily provision and automate SLAs to protect your cloud native workloads. And we support all the major cloud players out there. Microsoft has even recognized Rubrik's leadership position in data security, and they have made an equity investment in Rubrik, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But for zero trust data protection, we make sure all data is encrypted, it's logically air-gapped from the rest of your environment, with all access governed by authentication, access controls. And I'll mention that Rubrik is also built with an API-first approach in mind in terms of automation, and we integrate with automation tools like Terraform in order to help you protect at scale. Now, in the event of a cyber attack, or even accidental deletion, data corruption, keeping your data available and then your business running, we know that's your first priority. And because Rubrik indexes, we categorize metadata when backups occur, we actually have that metadata footprint. And what this means is we can look at the data intrinsically, we can derive additional value from your backup data. So at Rubrik, we also offer several applications that take advantage of this within our platform. So that includes ransomware investigation, looking at data and metadata change rates, seeing if ransomware has occurred, searching for data anomalies, malicious encryption events, and then providing the ability to roll back your data to a clean state. We've also built data classification, sensitive data discovery tools that, again, look at backup metadata and can tell you where things like PII or HIPAA data live within your estate as part of mitigating data risk. Rubrik can automatically locate, can classify sensitive data, so you can quickly assess the potential risk in terms of data exfiltration. Then incident containment. So this is one of our newer capabilities where Rubrik can hunt for threats and discover the point of malware infection. And this is what helps you ensure you're actually rolling data back to a clean point in time so that you're avoiding reinfecting your data with malware. Then finally, we also offer orchestrated application recovery, and this encompasses some expert guided recovery workflows post-attack, and this is using predefined application blueprints. So this is allowing teams to restore VMware-based environments automatically in minutes or hours rather than days or weeks, all with automation. And these solutions within our platform, they all meet the data security standards that are set forth by the US government as part of NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology. Okay, so now you have the high-level view of everything that we offer at Rubrik. Let's dig a little bit more into what this means for your cloud security. So our cloud approach is made to address the challenges that customers we talk to face in the cloud. And it has three different tenets that I briefly brought up. So first, we drive automated business resiliency and security at the point of data. We've got automated SLAs, secure backups by creating a data bunker in the cloud. So your backup is logically air-gapped. It's removed from identity boundaries that can be breached. Second, you can get started quickly in gaining control and governance, and it's easy to scale as your business grows without breaking the bank. So you can ensure your cloud resources are protected as your cloud architects are building quickly across this fragmented cloud ecosystem. So with this software, we're eliminating a lot of toil by consolidating the data management layer, and we're drastically reducing the amount of operational impact it has on your team, especially if you have resources that have to spend valuable cycles doing Azure, AWS, all of that protection. And we're even doing tiering features to optimize your storage costs. And third, we are able to help you manage everything through a single UI. So all this data across all your clouds, on-prem, like that picture I was showing you, rather than managing all those silos of points and deploying all these different resources in the cloud, we consolidate it. We give you one point of view for everything, defining a baseline backup across all those resources, across clouds, across data center. And when deploying cloud protection, and even if you're coupling that with on-prem appliances or software delivered globally, we're giving you a central management plane for visibility. And that can help you drive compliance, can help you fast-track reporting across IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So for cloud, this applies across workloads, and we've got broad coverage there. I wanted to show you this. This is important because as your presence in the cloud grows, it can easily become that, more cloud, more problems with the breadth of applications and services maybe that you're running and using in the cloud. So that can make operationalizing backups a real challenge, whether it's your VMs and managed disks and whatnot across all three of the major public cloud providers. So we have broad cloud coverage and are able to protect so much of your data. And with Rubrik, we're able to not only provide this broad protection, but simplify it. So For cloud, we offer several main functions. So first, the ability to archive your data to lower cost, long-term cloud storage. Second, the ability to launch existing applications in the cloud. So accelerating the move away from on-prem infrastructure with instantiation of VMs and applications. And then finally here on the right, helping customers protect their cloud applications across clouds. So let's look more at each of these a little bit. So cloud archival. A lot of customers, if they have an on-prem data center and they've replaced their legacy solution with Rubrik, they'll take an archive of their data backup, they'll send it to public cloud, maybe an AWS S3 bucket, Azure Blob, and the technology does incremental forever in the archive. So it's efficient with how we're placing the data in the cloud bucket. And we could do other things like cost tier within these cloud buckets where we can optimize costs. So I mentioned that. We can also automate that life cycle of how the data tiers, when it tiers, based on policies, based on storage class. And this is all controlled with an SLA domain policy. So that's what we call this. And this dictates when and where you want data archived because, again, all the metadata, it's indexed, it's searchable. And if you need to go and pull that data out of the archive with our software, you can retrieve single files without pulling the whole VM back. So if you had an archive living in an S3 infrequent access bucket, but maybe there's a document you've been asked to pull from several months ago, but it's no longer in production, it's actually in a backup. But it's in the cloud now, right? But with Rubrik, you can now go pluck that single file out easily from the cloud, bring it back without having to bring the whole VM back or the whole file share back. So it's highly cost effective. We also, of course, encrypt the data to safeguard against ransomware. And we can tier data to cloud for long-term retention to any of the cloud providers as well as on-prem. So if you have NFS storage or S3 storage in a data center that you want to archive to, you can always do that as well. So that's archival. Now, next up, cloud instantiation, launching on cloud. So say you've archived data to an S3 bucket in AWS. What Rubrik can help you do then is to take that data living in the archive and instantiate it to run in an EC2 instance. So the value comes in conversion. So when our software handles this conversion process from, say, a virtual machine disk to a virtual hard disk in Azure, we're lowering the recovery point objective significantly by automating that conversion. And there's several things that you can do with this that are important. So for instance, if you have an application that's mission critical that goes down in your data center and you want to now launch that application in the cloud so you don't lose any time to outages, you can do that in just a couple minutes. Another big use case is test dev. So maybe you want to take VMs that live in your data center and use Rubrik as the mechanism to migrate them to the cloud. You can then spin them up there and run testing. And once your data is safe and secure in the cloud, Rubrik can even act as a component of your DR strategy for disaster recovery to the cloud. So using the data in an archive, this allows Rubrik customers to lift and shift VMs, virtual machines, into AWS or Azure automatically as part of policy or on demand through our UI or API. And you can do migration instantiation in bulk. So we've had customers that have migrated thousands of VMs within a day, 24 hours. If you're building out your cloud strategy, you can actually use this as part of your migration path to the cloud. So cloud protection here, let's talk a little bit about cloud native. Cloud native, it's a SaaS-based snapshotting tool with Rubrik. And what this software is used for is to protect workloads that are infrastructure as a service or platform as a service in the cloud. Because some customers, after they've lifted and shifted or they've built things cloud native, they want to make sure, of course, that they can provide that same level of governance and security. And if you're not thinking about that, you should be. So for this capability, it's SaaS. It's software as a service. So from a configuration perspective, there's no running resources like compute or nodes or anything like that in your cloud account. All we're doing is connecting via API from our console, which is an aggregation of metadata. It's a control plane. We connect from that control plane via API to your cloud account, and then you're off and running. And we've implemented this for customers where the software is going and doing backups and within 5 minutes. Now, for scalable protection, we offer the ability to create a policy that can span hundreds of thousands of resources in the cloud. So just simply say what kind of recovery point objective, what recovery time objective you want. So you could say, I want to be able to back up all my cloud resources, whether it's RDS or EC2 once a day. I want to retain that data for 2 weeks, then archive it somewhere else. So you can set that policy up, and the software handles the entire backup and recovery. So we're taking a lot of the manual work out of having to go configure all these different components. And 90% of our clients we talk to tell us that as their cloud teams are building, launching things in the cloud really, really fast, it's hard for them to get that baseline backup, to be able to prove to both themselves and to internal and external stakeholders that their data is protected, that they can recover it. And through an SLA domain, it makes it really easy to always ensure that you have a baseline backup. Now, from a recovery standpoint, it's near zero recovery time objective, just a few clicks to recover. You can recover things across region, across accounts in the cloud. Everything's searchable. We can present the data back to you fast. In terms of security, a logical air gap provides protection from ransomware. So that's keeping your data isolated, keeping it safe in the event of compromise. And from a usability standpoint, we purposely developed a bifurcated approach. So we have a point and click multi-cloud dashboard experience. You'll get to see that in a bit with Mike, that the operator can go into, derive reporting from, have visibility in a way that native tooling from cloud providers simply can't do across multiple clouds. And then for the cloud builders or DevOps folks out there, we have the ability to deploy this as code with a dedicated Terraform provider. So you can auto provision Rubrik up and down as you're launching cloud templates across different resources. It's really flexible in how to manage it. So to make all of this even more enticing for those of you with data in Azure, in Microsoft 365, so I'll mention that even with the shared responsibility concept still at play, it's interesting that Microsoft has taken steps with Rubrik to go beyond what could be considered, in the past, a neutral standpoint in regards to recovery. So Microsoft has actually taken recently an equity stake in Rubrik. So they have skin in the game now, and we love working with them. We work really closely with them as a strategic partner. This partnership works so very well because we have a joint vision as customer-focused organizations. We really want to protect our customers from ransomware. And this partnership allows us to be in a very favorable position to help you secure your data in the cloud, in Azure, and in Microsoft 365. So for example, we have a really excellent innovation and technical customer support interlock. And this really allows us to bring the best services to our customers. And that's critical when it comes to Microsoft 365, because so many businesses, maybe like yours, have become very reliant on Microsoft 365. It's a tier 1 application. It's critical to business operations, but that also means that it's a huge target for attackers. So you have to protect it. Luckily, Microsoft and Rubrik together provide complete protection for this critical data that's so valuable to hackers nowadays. So if you actually have Microsoft 365, you may be familiar with how Microsoft offers some tools to help you control access to keep attackers out. They offer compliance tools. They offer retention policies to help you schedule deletions so you don't keep data longer than you need to. They provide classification and search tools, like they provide litigation hold to help you comply with different regulations. And they do e-discovery. But for recovery from ransomware, or in cases of accidental deletion, long-term retention that comes in handy for everyday instances where you need to recover 60, 90-day-old Microsoft 365 data that's been lost and that maybe you can't recover within Microsoft 365. That's where Rubrik comes in. So with Rubrik for Microsoft 365, you have an isolated copy of your data in Azure, but physically separated from your Microsoft 365 data. So with this, you can recover in bulk. You can use a granular 3-step recovery to any destination, and you can easily locate data with real-time global search. So with this, Rubrik really eliminates all of that manual job scheduling. Again, it streamlines policy management across tens of thousands of Microsoft 365 users. New users are added automatically, so that takes that out of your purview. You don't have to worry about that. They will be automatically protected by our SLA policies. And then Rubrik can auto scale resources to really seamlessly operate at scale. And with Rubrik, the ability to manage everything is through this single SaaS application that lets you protect your on-prem data, your hybrid cloud, your cloud applications. So it is this whole unified approach where you're able to manage things across clouds, you're able to manage Microsoft 365, everything all in one platform. That is real visibility and control. So I've talked a lot. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Rubrik platform, and I'll let Mike here show you a demo.
All right, thanks, Kim. Now that you've done all the legwork with the slides, I get to jump in and do the fun part, and that's showing off some of our awesome cloud capabilities. So how I'm going to approach this demo is I actually want to walk through the journey that we see our customers take. We'll start out with utilizing Rubrik's Cloud Out functionality. That's our ability to archive those older backups to the cloud. And for a lot of our customers, Cloud Out is really their first experience with cloud. From there, I'll show how we configure something called Cloud On. This is our ability to take those archive backups and actually convert them into cloud native instances such as EC2 or Azure VMs. And then finally, I'll walk through our protection capabilities available once your organization is fully invested in the cloud and show how Rubrik Polaris can provide cloud native protection. All right, so to start, let's take a look at Cloud Out. So configuring and setting up archiving within Rubrik is really simple. First, we need to create a bucket within AWS. Then we simply provide Rubrik with that bucket information. And then finally, we set up an archive policy inside an SLA domain. So as far as creating the bucket, you can most certainly follow the instructions in our user manual. This provides you with all the policies and permissions that need to be applied to the bucket in order for Rubrik to gain access. That said, if you're an automation junkie like myself, you can definitely use tools such as Terraform, Ansible, or AWS CloudFormation to do all the work for you. In fact, let me show you Rubrik build here. This is our open source community. And as you can see, we've already done a lot of the legwork for you here. You can easily download these instructions and the code to configure the bucket within the cloud. And in some cases, it'll configure Rubrik as well with the code available directly from this site. So in order to point Rubrik towards the bucket, let me first jump back into Rubrik, and we simply click the gear icon, and then we'll head to archival locations. Here you can see we have a few already set up. We have one in Azure, one in AWS, and one in GCP. Now, if we wanted to add a new archival location, we simply click on the plus sign here, and then we just need to fill in all the required information, such as the archival type, the bucket name, its associated region, access keys, and all the things like that. And if we scroll down here, we can see we can also easily enable encryption within the bucket using either a generated RSA key or a service such as AWS KMS. I'm just going to cancel out of here because we already have some set up. So now with Rubrik knowing about that archival location, we just need to assign it to an SLA domain. So I'll head to SLA domains, then local domains here, and let's go through the process of creating a new SLA domain. Again, I'll click that plus sign to add a new SLA, and let's pump in some RPO and retention here. Say, take a backup every 4 hours. Let's keep that for a day. Then we'll take a daily and we'll keep it for 30 days. I'll click next, and now we can configure our archival settings. Now, this is as easy as simply toggling it on here with the switch and then using our slider to specify how many days we want to keep local before archiving that data off. We then just simply select our archival location, so let's say AWS in this case, and then if we wanted to, we can also select which tier or storage class to store our archive backups on. So if we were looking for a very long-term retention strategy to meet compliance regulations or something like that, we could, for instance, archive directly to Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive. And that's really it for enabling Cloud Out. Any VMs or objects that we now assign to this SLA will automatically inherit those archiving policies and begin pushing data up to the cloud. So now let's move into Cloud On. For Cloud On to work, Rubrik needs to be able to spin up temporary compute instances within the customer's cloud environment in order to perform these conversion processes from, taking a VMware VM and converting that to, let's say, an EC2 instance. So if we head back to our archival locations, let me show you how this is done. First, I'll select one to edit here, and then we'll scroll down to Advanced Settings. So here we can see under the compute settings that we just need to input some basic information for our temporary cloud compute to take place. Basically just the VPC in which it should run, the subnet, as well as a security group containing the proper rules to allow communication. And again, if we take a look at Rubrik Build here, there's a number of projects available to help create and maintain all of the cloud infrastructure for us to support Rubrik Cloud On using all those popular automation tool sets that we talked about earlier. So once configured, we'll have the option on our backups now to perform what's called a launch on cloud, which basically takes the archived VMDK, converts it to an Amazon AMI, and then basically launches a live EC2 instance of the point-in-time copy from it. So that's Cloud Out and Cloud On. Our final piece of cloud functionality that I want to show you is cloud native protection. So for this, we utilize Rubrik Polaris. This is our SaaS offering. First, let me head to inventory here in Rubrik Polaris. And here you can see all of the different backup sources we protect with Polaris. So things like Microsoft 365, Azure, AWS, EC2, RDS, all of that stuff. So let's drill into EC2. So the first thing I want to start with here is accounts. So as you can see, we have a couple of accounts that are added to this Polaris instance. But if, like a lot of organizations, you heavily use cloud accounts for segregation of environments, well, you can add as many as you need to Polaris. So if we head back to our EC2 instances tab, you can see that this is going to give us a global look of all of our instances across all of the accounts. So even if you're utilizing multiple accounts within AWS, you're able to manage the data protection of them all within one Polaris instance. So if we drill into one here, you can see that same calendar views provided within Polaris as we're used to with the on-premises version of Rubrik, the cloud data management software. And we can drill in just the same as well here. So we see all these snapshots now, but just a note, these snapshots aren't stored within Polaris. Basically, in the case of cloud native protection, Rubrik is acting as an orchestration layer, which basically just calls the proper, in this case, AWS APIs to take EBS volume snapshots and basically automates the process from start to finish, basically managing the entire life cycle of your EBS snapshots. So what this means is customer's data never actually leaves the customer's environment. It's stored as EBS snapshots within their environment. No data, only metadata around that data is sent back to Polaris. So if we click the little ellipsis, we can see what options we have for recovery. First, let's take a look at file level, right? We can actually crack open these EBS snapshots and retrieve individual files and folders. And just as with Cloud On, this is all made possible by temporary Rubrik compute nodes running within the customer's cloud environment. So if we actually search for a file here, let's say hosts, and then we'll go through the wizard here, we can see that we can recover this certain file to either an existing S3 bucket that we have set up, or if we wanted to, we could create a new S3 bucket and basically crack open those snapshots and pull individual files and folders out of them. Second, we have another option here called recover. So recover basically takes that original EC2 instance and rewinds it back to a specified point in time. Basically what happens is the original EC2 instance gets powered down. We restore the EBS volumes from the snapshots. And then we basically attach them to the original EC2 instance and we power it back on. And the last option we have here is called export. And this is very similar to the process that recover takes, as it does mount a point-in-time copy of the EC2 instance. However, when we export something, the original source is not affected in any way. So we go ahead and we create a new EC2 instance and we leave that production instance alone, basically. So let's go through the process of actually performing an export. So I'll click export here. And as you can see, we simply need to supply an instance name, as well as some information around where it should be created. So we need to specify things like the instance size. So we can, if desired, we can actually export instances from one account to another account or one region to another. We also simply have to point it towards a KMS key here if we wish to encrypt this new instance, as well as a key pair so we have access to log in. And then we basically need to specify sort of the networking around it, right? What VPC is it going into, what subnet, and what security group we would like this instance to be attached to. So I'll just click export, and at this point, we're done. So what's happening now is Rubrik is making all those appropriate API calls into AWS to, one, create new EBS volumes from those point in time snapshots that we've selected. Two, then it's going to actually deploy a new EC2 instance and attach these newly created volumes to it and simply power it on. And all this is happening without affecting our production instance. So this is a great process for things like test dev, or if your security team would like a copy of a certain instance to run penetration tests or different things like that, or just for simple recovery if you don't want to affect the production resources. So let's jump back into the AWS console and see what's happening. So I'll dive into the EC2 service here, and let's just do a search for our mic test instance, and there it is, a point-in-time restoration of our production instance, powered on and ready to go. So that's all I have to show here today. Hopefully you can see how we can help protect our customers no matter where they are in their cloud journey. If you're just getting started leveraging cloud, Cloud Out's a great way to sort of get familiar with cloud and start utilizing it. Or if you're running actual cloud native instances, Rubrik's got your back. So at this point, I think we're here to take any questions that you may have.
Awesome demo. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. So to wrap up, we have talked about the ability to archive to the cloud. We talked about instantiation or launch on cloud. We talked about how to protect the data that's living in IaaS or PaaS in the cloud, plus protecting your business critical SaaS data in Microsoft 365. And we'd love to talk to you more about that. You've now seen our platform. We believe we have one of the most elegant data security solutions out there from a cloud perspective. A single command center, regardless of where your data lives or where it's going. So you can control everything through one screen. And that's really powerful. It's giving you the visibility and control, being able to secure your environment holistically against data loss. And we would love to help you secure your data. We have a lot of resources that you can reference right from our website, rubrik.com, to check out. We've got a lot of technical white papers that are focused on each of the major public cloud providers, and resources on Microsoft 365, of course, as well. All right, I'm going to do some questions now. If I'm using Azure, what's the benefit with Rubrik there? Yeah, good question. So I mentioned Rubrik's partnership with Microsoft. I talked some about that. And this is a big one, especially for those of you that are using Azure today, or if you're utilizing Microsoft 365 and it has become that tier one application for you, as it has for so many organizations. Rubrik's partnership with Microsoft is a real benefit. So both companies can bring you their best-in-class offerings, these capabilities that unify your data management, and then more importantly, provide you with this holistic approach to data security. So Rubrik can secure your Microsoft environments with full data protection for your VMs running in Azure, plus storage volumes via Azure Managed Disks. And then, of course, protection for OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Exchange data using Microsoft Azure storage. And like we talked about, for archival, your data is secure, it's air gapped, it can't be accessed or encrypted by ransomware. And these capabilities across Rubrik and Microsoft follow security best practices throughout. We do have that joint engineering, joint product interlock with Microsoft when it comes to what we're building and what we're creating. And that'll help you get even better solutions and better support from both companies. Okay, how does Rubrik differentiate from AWS native tools? Yeah, we get questions about this sometimes. So our differentiation versus AWS or even Azure native tools. It's less over individual features, and we're glad to get into that more with you and talk about your individual needs. But the benefit here is really more about unification across your on-prem, your cloud, even multi-cloud environments. I mean, so many customers we talk to are in multiple clouds. A lot of them are not fully in the cloud yet too, so they've got on-prem to manage. So we're able to give you that visibility across what can really be a fragmented ecosystem. And with Rubrik, we're giving you that ability to manage all this data, no matter where it lives now or where it's going to live in the future. So think about where your teams are building now, what cloud or clouds you're using, and you can really quickly see how difficult and complex it can be to manage all those different environments, for one, but more importantly, how difficult it can be to prove that this critical data is protected from ransomware, that you do have a strategy in place to be able to recover all of it. That's something that that your CIO is going to want to know. You want to be able to prove that you can recover all of it quickly, that it's not going to take weeks to recover from a backup. Where in that time you're going to lose even newer data that's being created. Not to mention just the downtime there in terms of business operations. Okay. Can Rubrik provide PCI compliance certifications? Yeah, so the Rubrik platform has different industry credentials. We can certainly share that if we have the right mutual agreements in place. So we can share credentials with you on our SaaS control plane. But then we also, I want to mention, have this event stream and reporting database within our tool that can be really used to satisfy compliance requirements that you have internally. So I'll say a good example of this is the SLA compliance report that we can run. So when you protect workloads with Rubrik, you build these policies, these SLA domain policies, and they define the RPO, the recovery point objective for the workload that they're assigned to. And we have means by which that across your cloud and data boundaries, you can go in, you can run a report. The report would come out and say, here's the policy that's assigned to each workload. Here's how many days it's been compliant. You set the window, then you've got the report for auditors that shows multiple recovery points in accordance with your policies, and these policies map to your business requirements. So that's a really, really important thing that you can provide, and it's a great added benefit of the tool. I keep hearing in our organization that we have data retention and we don't need backup. How do I easily explain this? Okay, all right. So you're looking for a little bit of help here talking about this. And I'll say, okay, think about this, and I'll put it in the context of Microsoft 365, because that's such a big thing that we're talking to a lot of customers about lately, and retention policies there. So if a malicious threat actor gets access to your data, think about this, they can also change your retention schedules. So an attacked vector for ransomware attacks. And these threat actors, once they do that, they have the keys to the kingdom there. They can delete versions of data. So it's really critical to have actual secure data backups with a solution that is protecting that lifeline for you. Protecting your data backups. That is going to be the way that you are going to be able to keep business running, right? So if something happens there, and hackers get in, they have that ability to manipulate and change retention policies. So when they do that, there's essentially no data there to recover, right? Okay, last question. We're still on-prem, but plan to be in the cloud in the next 6 months. Any advice? Yeah, sure. So if you think about cloud adoption, the diversity of technologies in play, the pace with which some of these platforms grow and they evolve, the different consumption models, pure IaaS, SaaS, this middle ground in PaaS, there's probably legacy data sets out there too, and this fragmentation. So our advice is to look for tooling, not just in the data protection space, but in general, that's feature rich, that's pluggable into all of the elements of your environment, especially your tier zeros, your tier ones. Look for technology that's API driven, that's extensible. Look for technology that's mature, that's scalable to whatever boundary you think your organization may grow to over the lifetime of the investment. So at Rubrik, we could postulate that as a company, we've made significant investments to make sure that we have data management and security tooling that's capable, that's feature rich and platform native, regardless of where you're interacting. So if you go to protect a vSphere VM with us, you're going to use the same policy model, the same event stream, the same report database, the same role-based access controls as you go protect an M365 workload, as if you go protect an Azure VM or VM in some other cloud or enterprise database. And that's important because all these platforms and technologies, they have nuances to how they're implemented, how they're protected and recovered. And being able to abstract that away and allow the operator to just distill down to the important elements of their responsibilities. Am I seeing all my data? Is my data protected? Is it recoverable? And can I prove that? That's really important. These are all the important operational tools that we've kind of discussed today. So complexity, it's the enemy when you're dealing with those type of things, and that's what you really want to be able to address when going to the cloud.
All right, great presentation, great Q&A session there. I love the demo from Mike as well. I'm afraid that's all the time we have here for questions, which is good news and bad news. That means that the event is wrapping up here. And don't forget to check out the handouts tab. There's a link there to Rubrik's guide to public cloud. I know some of you had questions around public cloud, and then Rubrik for cloud native protection. Of course, the good news is that it's now time to announce the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card prize. This is going to Tony Matera from Nebraska. Congratulations, Tony Matera from Nebraska. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the webinar today. Visit Rubrik.com for more information. Have a good day.